You know what Warren told me during a private dinner in Omaha 3 years ago? He said, "Franklin, money doesn't corrupt people. It reveals who they already were." That hit me like a freight train. After 15 years as a financial consultant managing my own firm and running businesses with hundreds of employees, I've seen this truth play out countless times. Money isn't just numbers in your bank account. It's a magnifying glass that amplifies every aspect of your character, your relationships, and your life decisions. Welcome back to Cash and Consequences, where we dig deep into what money really does to your life. I'm Franklin, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because we're about to explore territory most financial advisors won't touch. And to my loyal subscribers, thank you for being part of this community. You know I always respond to your comments first. Today, we're uncovering 5 consequences of money that most people never see coming. These aren't the obvious ones like money can't buy happiness. These are the hidden psychological and social shifts that catch even the smartest entrepreneurs off guard. Consequence number 1, the friendship filter effect. Here's something nobody warns you about when you start building wealth. Money becomes an invisible filter that sorts your relationships. I learned this the hard way 8 years ago when my tech startup got acquired. Suddenly, I had friends I'd never met before, and friends I'd known for decades started acting differently. My buddy from college, Jake, used to split pizza bills down to the cent. After my exit, he'd forget his wallet at dinner, assuming I'd cover it. When I called him out, he said, "Come on, Franklin, you can afford it." That's when it hit me. He wasn't seeing me as Jake's friend anymore. He was seeing me as Jake's ATM. Mark Cuban talks about this phenomenon in his book. He calls it the money mask. People stop seeing you and start seeing your net worth. It's not necessarily malicious, it's human psychology, but it forces you to question every relationship. Are they here for me or for what I can provide? The French have a saying, "L'argent révèle l'homme." Money reveals the man. But I'd add, it reveals everyone around you too. In Canada, where I have business interests, I've noticed this cultural difference. Canadians tend to be more subtle about wealth displays, which actually preserves relationships better than the American tendency to flaunt success. Consequence number 2, the decision paralysis paradox. This one blew my mind when I first experienced it. You'd think having more money makes decisions easier, right? Wrong. It creates what psychologists call choice overload, but with financial stakes that can keep you awake at night. When I was making $50,000 a year, choosing between 2 restaurants was simple. Which one fits my budget? Now, with multiple revenue streams and significant assets, every financial decision carries weight. Should I invest in real estate in Miami or tech stocks? Charter a private jet for efficiency or fly commercial for humility? Buy that $30,000 watch because I can, or because I should? I was having lunch with a friend who sold his fintech company for 8 figures. He spent 45 minutes deciding whether to order the $85 Wagyu or the $35 salmon. Not because of money, he could buy the entire restaurant, but because suddenly every choice felt like a statement about who he was becoming. This is why so many lottery winners report feeling overwhelmed. They go from limited options to unlimited possibilities overnight, and the human brain isn't wired to handle infinite choice efficiently. Consequence number 3, the responsibility amplification. Money doesn't just change your options, it multiplies your responsibilities exponentially. When you're wealthy, you're not just responsible for your own financial security. You become the family bank, the friend in need's first call, and the community's expected philanthropist. Last Christmas, my sister asked me to co-sign her mortgage. My nephew wanted startup funding for his app idea. My old neighborhood association reached out about renovating the community center. Each request was reasonable, each person deserving, but collectively, they created a web of financial obligations I never anticipated. This is what happened to Michael Jordan, not just the athlete, but the brand, the employer, the community leader. Success made him responsible for hundreds of jobs, millions in sponsorship deals, and countless charitable expectations. The money came with an invisible contract of responsibility. In my financial consulting practice, I've seen this destroy relationships and mental health. One client, a successful restaurant chain owner in Toronto, told me he felt like he was drowning in other people's expectations. He said, "I worked for financial freedom, but I've never felt less free." Consequence number 4, the identity shift crisis. This is the big one that most wealth-building content ignores. Money changes your identity, often without your permission. You start as someone who wants financial security, and somewhere along the journey, you become someone who has it. And those are two completely different people. I remember the exact moment I realized this. I was at a Starbucks in downtown Chicago, and the barista was clearly having a rough day. Old Franklin would have struck up a conversation, maybe left a generous tip. New Franklin found myself calculating whether engaging would signal wealth and create an awkward dynamic. I had become self-conscious about something I'd never thought about before. This identity shift affects everything: how you dress, where you shop, what conversations you have. You start avoiding certain topics because you don't want to seem out of touch. You second-guess genuine emotions because you wonder if people think you're humble bragging. Oprah talks about this in her interviews, how success created an invisible barrier between her authentic self and her public persona. She had to actively work to maintain genuine connections as her wealth grew. Consequence number 5, the time-money inversion. Here's the ultimate irony. You spend your early years trading time for money, but once you have significant wealth, you spend money trying to buy back time and discover it's not a fair exchange. When I was building my first business, I worked 80-hour weeks because I had to. Now, I could theoretically work 20-hour weeks, but the complexity of managing wealth, investments, businesses, and opportunities often demands more time than when I was broke. I have assistants, managers, and advisors, but the decisions still land on my desk. Bill Gates stepped away from Microsoft's day-to-day operations to focus on philanthropy, but he's arguably busier now than when he was coding software. The money solved his financial problems but created operational ones. I can hire someone to grocery shop, but I can't hire someone to make the strategic decisions about my portfolio, my business direction, or my family's future. The mental load doesn't decrease, it just shifts to higher stakes decisions. After 8 years running businesses and 15 years in financial consulting, here's what I've learned. Money is a tool, but it's also a test. It tests your character, your relationships, your priorities, and your ability to stay grounded while everything around you changes. The millionaires and entrepreneurs I admire most aren't the ones who avoided these consequences. They're the ones who anticipated them and built systems to handle them. They maintained core friendships before wealth complicated them. They developed decision-making frameworks before choice overload hit. They established boundaries around responsibility before everyone started asking. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these consequences surprised you the most? If you're on your wealth-building journey, which one worries you? And for those who've experienced financial success, what consequences would you add to this list? Also, let me know where you're watching from. I love connecting with subscribers from different countries and learning how these money dynamics play out in different cultures. Remember to hit that like button if this content added value to your financial perspective, and subscribe to Cash and Consequences for more insights that go beyond typical money advice. Until next time, build wealth wisely, and remember, it's not just about making money, it's about making sure money doesn't unmake you.